The story begins many centuries ago, when the Roman Empire ruled over a quarter of the world's population. For the past 12 years, they had been fighting against Germania, and this war was now in its final stages. They only needed to conquer one more territory, and then the entire empire would be theirs. Soon we see a battlefield. The Roman army and the nomadic tribes of Germania stood face to face. The Roman general was Maximus, a valiant warrior for whom the Romans were willing to lay down their lives. When the war began, arrows rained down from both sides. The ground turned red with blood, but in the end, Rome emerged victorious. After this victory, the emperor summoned Maximus to his tent. Maximus respected the emperor greatly, but he noticed that despite the win, there was no joy on the emperor's face. In his 20-year reign, the emperor had spent 16 years fighting wars. He was now completely exhausted. His only dream was for peace and tranquility in Rome. He decided that he wanted to hand over his throne to someone else. He wished to spend the last days of his life in peace, and his eyes were now set only on Maximus as his successor. However, Maximus had no desire to become emperor. His heart yearned to go home. He hadn't seen his family for 2 years and 264 days. Back then, there were no phones for video calls. The emperor directly told him that he wanted Maximus to be his heir, but Maximus flatly refused. It wasn't that the emperor had no children. He had a son, Commodus, and a daughter, Lucilla. But the emperor knew that Commodus was not fit for such a responsibility. There was a regret in the emperor's eyes. He wished Maximus were his own son. Maximus asked for some time to think, and the emperor gave him until the next evening. As he left the tent, Maximus went to his camp and simply told his servant that he might never return home. Perhaps he said this because, deep down, he had already made up his mind. He wanted to sit on the throne of Rome and govern it well. Meanwhile, at night, Commodus, the emperor's son, came to him in the dark. When the emperor told him he was giving the throne to Maximus, Commodus's face first filled with anger, but then his eyes welled up with tears. He reminded his father, "Do you remember when I was a child, you told me that a good emperor should possess qualities like compassion, justice, tolerance, and discipline? I know I possess none of these qualities, but there is one thing I have in abundance, and that is the desire to be great." And now, becoming the most powerful emperor in the world was the sole purpose of his life. After this, we see Commodus suffocating his father to death. Now, the biggest obstacle in his path was only Maximus. In the morning, when everyone learned of the emperor's death, it was announced that he had died of a heart attack. When Maximus saw the emperor's face, he immediately understood that this was not a natural death, but murder. Commodus, however, extended a hand of friendship to him. He said, "I need you, Maximus." But Maximus didn't even deem it necessary to reply and silently walked away. When his servant told Maximus that he should have listened to Commodus, Maximus simply said, "The emperor was murdered, and all the ministers should be summoned immediately." But before that, Commodus's men arrived. They told Maximus that he must immediately appear before the court. Maximus then understood what was about to happen to him. He only asked for one promise from them, that his family would not be harmed. But in response, he was simply told, "None of your family will be spared." After this, he was struck hard on the head and rendered unconscious. They tried to kill him in the middle of the forest, but Maximus did not give up even there. He killed them all with his bare hands and, in his injured state, set off for his home. His home was very far, and the journey was very difficult, but he was determined to reach home no matter what. But upon arriving, he saw that everything was destroyed. Commodus had ordered the death of his wife and child. Standing amidst the burning corpses, Maximus was broken. He buried his family and then collapsed there, unconscious. A little later, some people arrived who captured and sold humans like animals. They also caught Maximus and later sold him to a man named Proximo. Proximo was a gladiator trainer. He trained people who fought with swords until death. This was essentially a game that continued until one of the two fighters died. Maximus did not want to be a part of this game, but he had no choice. If he didn't fight, he would be killed. So he picked up a sword. There he met two other gladiators, Juba and Hagen. They soon became his friends. When the three of them fought for the first time, Proximo's men had already killed everyone else. Only these three remained: Maximus, Juba, and Hagen. Meanwhile, in Rome, Commodus had now become emperor, but he had no concern for his people. When his advisors told him that an epidemic was spreading among the populace and people had no food, he would simply shrug his shoulders and say that special games would be held to distract the people. Neither the people nor his own men were happy about this. His father had stopped these bloody games, but for Commodus, people's deaths were a spectacle, and Maximus had become a part of this bloody game. By now, Maximus had won several fights. His name was on people's tongues. Proximo, for whom Maximus fought, when he heard that the imperial games were to be held in the Colosseum in Rome, he summoned Maximus. It was now time to return to the city where everything had begun. Maximus now learned that his next match was to be held in Rome's largest arena. Proximo told him that these games would be magnificent, with at least 500,000 people coming to watch him. When he won, those people would cheer him on, and he would feel as if he himself were the emperor of that arena. As Proximo said these things, there was a sparkle in his eyes, from which Maximus understood that he, too, had once been a gladiator. He asked Proximo, "How did you get your freedom?" After which, Proximo showed him a wooden sword. He explained that this sword had been given to him by the emperor himself, and it was the symbol of his freedom. People didn't like him because he quickly killed anyone, but because he won everyone's hearts with his fighting style. Maximus said that he also wanted to stand before the emperor. Proximo did not know that Maximus already knew the emperor, so he simply said, "If you want to win the hearts of the people, you must learn this art." Maximus agreed and said, "I will definitely learn." Then the entire gladiator team arrived in Rome. The games were to be held in the Colosseum, a massive stadium that could seat more than 500,000 people. On the other hand, Commodus had not lost a single battle since becoming emperor, but he was internally troubled because he knew that the people did not love him. His sister Lucilla and her son lived with him. Lucilla was afraid of her brother Commodus, because Lucilla's son was the heir to the kingdom, and she feared that Commodus might kill him too, just as he had killed their father. Lucilla met with people who used to be advisors to the old emperor. She was planning that Commodus must be killed, or he would become a threat to the entire populace and her son. But the advisors did not agree with her. They said that a part of the populace was still with Commodus. Until that changed, nothing could be done. A day would come when everyone would hate him. That would be the right time to do something. And that day came when the games were to be held in the Colosseum. Maximus and his companions stepped into the Colosseum. Thousands of people sat all around. The people Maximus was to fight were all in large chariots, equipped with bows and arrows and long, pointed spears, so that the gladiators could not even get close to them. This was a one-sided game of death, and in this game, Maximus and his companions were merely slaves. Commodus, Lucilla, and her son were also watching this match, but they did not recognize Maximus because he was wearing an iron mask. When the battle began, Maximus took charge of leadership. He told everyone what to do and how to do it. He overturned many chariots and killed many enemies. Yes, some of his companions were also killed in this battle, but in the end, Maximus won. Throughout the stadium, people were cheering for him. Commodus was also quite impressed by his bravery. He said, "I want to meet this warrior." When Maximus came before him, Commodus told him, "You are an amazing warrior." He had never seen such a swordsman. He asked Maximus to remove his mask and tell him his name. Maximus removed his mask and said, "My name is Maximus, loyal to the true emperor Marcus Aurelius." He explained, "My wife was burned alive. My son was killed, and now I have come for revenge, whether in this life or the next." Hearing all this, Commodus's face turned red. His swordsmen surrounded Maximus, but the voice of the people echoed, "Let him live, let him live." Commodus was helpless before them. He could not kill Maximus at that moment because Maximus had won the game. Maximus returned to his place. Lucilla found out that Maximus was still alive. That night, she went to meet him. There was a time when she loved Maximus, and deep down, she still did. When she stood before Maximus, his anger erupted. He said, "My family was innocent, burned alive." Lucilla said that she knew nothing about it. She said that after her father's death, she had been living in fear. People called her father's death a natural death, but she knew the truth, that he had been murdered. Now she feared that her son might also be killed. Lucilla wanted Maximus to bring peace to Rome. She said, "I once knew a man, a general who was very loyal to my father. He honored them like gods." She was referring to Maximus. She also mentioned that Commodus had many enemies within Rome. She advised Maximus to meet them, but Maximus said that he was no longer the same man. Now he was just a slave. Perhaps he would be killed in tomorrow's fight. At this, Lucilla asked, "How can I help you?" Maximus harshly said, "Leave me to my fate and never come to see me again." Lucilla returned, disappointed. Meanwhile, when Commodus heard that Maximus was alive, he went mad. He summoned all the people who had told him that Maximus was dead and immediately had them killed. Then Commodus devised another plan to kill Maximus. He pitted his most dangerous and undefeated warrior against Maximus, and also had hungry tigers placed all around. When the fight began, that warrior was overpowering Maximus. Suddenly, a tiger was also released upon him, but Maximus killed the tiger. Then there was a fierce battle between Maximus and that powerful warrior. They were both equally matched, but eventually Maximus won. When the warrior lay wounded on the ground before Maximus, the entire crowd was shouting, "Kill him! Kill him!" Commodus also gestured with his hand for Maximus to kill him, but Maximus did not kill the warrior. He spared him. Seeing this, the entire Colosseum erupted in praise for Maximus. They were all chanting the same name, "Merciful Maximus! Merciful Maximus!" Jealousy burned in Commodus's eyes. He wanted these people to praise him, not Maximus. When Maximus left the arena, an old companion met him. Maximus asked him, "Where is my army?" The reply was that they were currently far away in Austria. So Maximus told him, "Warn my army that I am alive and want to meet them all." After that, Maximus silently moved on. He couldn't talk to anyone for too long, because now he was just a gladiator, a slave who would have to play this game of death again and again. But now his name echoed throughout the Colosseum. People had begun to remember him, not just for his swordsmanship, but for his humanity. The people of Rome had not recognized him because Maximus had fought for them far away with his army. But his army loved him immensely. At his slightest signal, thousands of people were ready to lay down their lives. Even today, his army had more than 5,000 men who were loyal to him rather than any emperor. One day, Maximus's old friend met him again. Maximus told him to go and meet Commodus's sister Lucilla and tell her that Maximus was ready to meet the man she wanted him to meet. The man did exactly that. A little later, Maximus, Lucilla, and some people who were against Commodus came together. They all decided that they would secretly send Maximus out of Rome. From there, he would go to his loyal soldiers' camp. From there, he would return with his 5,000 soldiers who had fought with him in hundreds of wars. After that, he would kill Commodus and restore Rome to the right hands. Their plan was perfectly clear, but Commodus became suspicious. He began to feel that Lucilla was planning something with someone. He threatened Lucilla, saying that if she didn't tell the truth, he would kill her son. Forced, Lucilla revealed everything. Now Commodus knew the entire plan. He immediately sent his men to the caves where Maximus was hiding. There, Maximus's companions fought the enemies, helping him. But in this struggle, Proximo and many other loyal people were killed. Maximus barely escaped, and as per the plan, reached the exact spot where his old armor and sword were kept. He put them on and began looking for his horse, but then he saw that Commodus had hung his companion. Maximus understood that he was trapped, and in no time Commodus's soldiers surrounded him. Now Maximus was arrested again. At that moment, Commodus gave Lucilla an even more dangerous threat. He said that from now on, her son would stay with him, and if Lucilla made any move against him, he would kill her son, and if she tried to take any wrong step, her son would not be spared. Commodus also told her, "You will love me as I love you." Commodus was so vile that he had lustful eyes on his own sister. He wanted an heir to the Roman throne, of royal blood, which his sister would bear. In the Colosseum, wherever one looked, people were chanting Maximus's name. But Maximus was now imprisoned. Commodus could not bear this. The name and respect he wanted for himself, Maximus had it all. So he played one last game. He came to Maximus and told him, "Your story is excellent. From a general to a slave, from a slave to a gladiator, and now the last stage of this story should also be equally magnificent. You will fight an emperor." Maximus asked him, "Will you fight me?" To which Commodus replied, "I am not afraid of you, understand?" Maximus knew that Commodus had lived his entire life in the shadow of fear, because deep down he knew that he was not fit to be emperor. But then Commodus began to say, "You may be brave, but everyone fears death." At this Maximus said, "A great man once told me that even death smiles at warriors." A true warrior's death comes with a smile. Commodus wanted to know if that man himself had smiled at his own death. At this, Maximus coldly said, "You would know, your father told me that. You killed him, didn't you?" After this, Commodus smiled, embraced Maximus, and stabbed him in the back. Then he told his men, "Hide his wound and put armor on him." Commodus wanted to fight Maximus in front of everyone and kill him, so that his victory would make everyone understand that he was even more powerful than the great warrior Maximus. And then, in the middle of the Colosseum, the moment arrived. Commodus and Maximus stood face to face. Commodus's soldiers surrounded them on all sides. The fight began, and Maximus was already wounded, but he still fought with all his strength. A moment came when Commodus's sword fell from his hands. He asked his soldiers for another sword, but the general stopped everyone. No one gave the emperor a sword. Everyone understood that Commodus was now alone, an emperor whom no one liked. Then Maximus also threw down his sword and went to fight Commodus with his bare hands. But Commodus pulled out a hidden dagger and attacked Maximus. Maximus stopped him, held his hands, and plunged the same dagger into Commodus's chest. After which Commodus died then and there. Maximus, who was also wounded, fell to the ground. He told the general, "Fulfill my last wish. Release my people." He also said, "Choose a good emperor. Find a way for people to choose their own emperor. Your previous emperor, Marcus Aurelius, dreamt of this: a free Rome where everyone would be happy." After that, Maximus fell unconscious. Lucilla immediately came to him. Maximus looked at her and said, "Your son is now safe." Saying this, Maximus died and was reunited with his wife and son in another world. He had given his life for Rome. He had fulfilled his duty. Therefore, all the soldiers carried him on their shoulders with full honors, while Commodus's corpse lay rotting on the ground.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.